Hey friends, welcome back to Whiskey and Wit. I'm Whitney and today's video is going to be super fun. We're going to look back at all the projects in 2020 and I've picked my top 20 for you, so let's get started. Starting with number 20, this is a recent project. They are these fun Dollar Tree votive snowballs. They started with these foam balls from the floral section at Dollar Tree. I trimmed off the bottom so that they would sit flat. I traced the tea light on the top of the foam ball, and then I used my Arteza hobby knife, which I love. I will link it down below, and I used it to scrape out and create a little indent so that my candle would fit into the foam piece. Once my indent was deep enough to fit the candle, I turned it on, plopped it in, and you have this really cute glowing snowball. Before we hop into the next project, I wanted to thank Heidi from Heidi Sample DIY and Linnea from DIY Beauty on Purpose for including me in this collab. There's a full playlist down in the description so you can see a ton of other people's top 20 DIYs. Number 19 is one from the summer, and it is this Dollar Tree DIY lemon charger. So you can use any charger from the Dollar Tree. I had this one on hand, so I used some maize yellow paint by Waverly, and I gave it a quick base coat. After the base coat, I went onto Pinterest and found an image of a lemon slice so that I could use it as a guide when I was painting. To create my lemon, I just freehanded a circle around the outside of my painted charger, and then I went in and started filling out the little pieces of lemon. After I connected all of those pieces, I went around the outside with some more white to fill out the slice. I rounded my edges, and then I went through with a lighter color of yellow so that I could finish off the look. Final step was to add some seeds, and it was done. This turned out so cute, and it went so well with my other lemon inspired projects. If you are a lemon fan, be sure to check out that video. I will link all of the original videos down in the description. Next are these super fun little winter hats that I made for a garland. I saw these on TikTok and they blew up this year, so I wanted to share them again in case you missed them. They're a great winter DIY. So it started with a toilet paper roll. I went through and cut about 1/2-inch little pieces, kept them intact as a circle, and those were the actual solid brim part of the hat. Then I took some Dollar Tree yarn, wrapped it around this cardboard, and created about 8-inch strips. Then this part feels a little tedious, but it is so worth it and it goes fast. It's a good thing to do while you're watching Netflix. I went through and looped the pieces around. So you're gonna fold it in half, pull the loop around the piece of toilet paper holder, and then pull it through. The key here is just to make sure that everyone is going the same way so that you don't have knots on either side. Once you make it all the way through, it's gonna look like this. And then you're just going to take all of your pieces of yarn and push them through the center to create that kind of fluffy brim, or the piece that you would fold over on a regular stocking cap. Once those are all pushed through, grab a spare piece of yarn and tie the hat where you would like the pom-pom to be. And then go through and trim your little pom-pom at the top to whatever length you would like. Once those were all done, I just strung them on some Dollar Tree jute twine with a mixture of wood beads and some Dollar Tree pearls. It is perfect for winter, and I'm going to leave this up well through February. These would also be really cute for Valentine's Day if you did pink and red hats, or you could do Christmas hats. There are a ton of different options, but it's a super quick and easy, cheap and affordable DIY with Dollar Tree items. Number 17 is a home project, but this is one of my absolute favorite DIYs I've done for our home, and it is our ceiling fans that I made over really quickly and easily. So this is what our ceiling fans looked like before, and they were pretty dated. So I took them apart and used some cheap supplies to make them over. So once I took everything apart, I gave everything a really good clean and I removed the hardware from the blades. Now I'm gonna go pretty quick in this overview, so I will link the video down below so you can check it out. But I sprayed all of the hardware that I could get off with matte black spray paint. If you are spray painting any pieces that have any type of electrical, make sure to cover them like I'm doing here. You don't want to get any tape in those bits or your fans will not work when you go to put them back together. So here I am spray painting the hardware that hook the blades to the fan. And then I used some Rust-Oleum flat black paint and hand painted the pieces that I couldn't remove from the ceiling. This actually went pretty quick and the thick oil-based paint didn't drip. I did put a drop cloth down and then used a small little paintbrush to get all the nooks and crannies. Then for the fan blades, I went through and painted them with a tan. I had this left over from our walls in our house, but you can use whatever tan color you want. You just want a wood base color. And then to give them that faux wood look, I used some Minwax gel stain and a regular brush and just went through and dry brushed the gel stain kind of in a few different angles, a few different directions on the fan blade, and it made it look like stained wood. I added some wipe-on poly to the fan blades, and then once everything was dry, went through, reassembled, and added some little light cages that I purchased at Home Depot. And here are the before and afters. It honestly looks like we bought a brand new fan. You can buy fans that look like this for like $250, and the whole project was definitely under $50. So this is something that I was so glad I did when I was on maternity leave. And like I said, the full tutorial will be linked down below if you would like to try this out. Number 16 is a thrift flip, and I made these for Christmas, but you could do these year round, and they're these faux farmhouse Crocks. So I went to Goodwill looking for Crocks, and I did find one. However, I wanted to figure out how I could DIY some for my trees. So I grabbed some of these utensil holders and just some spray paint from Walmart. So I made sure to give them all a really good clean. That's what I do when I get anything at the thrift store. And then I went through with some Rust-Oleum satin and smoky beige and gave all of them 2 coats to cover up all of the fun prints that were on there that I didn't want to show through. Once that was dry, I used some Rust-Oleum multicolor texture spray, just in a few different random angles, some quick sprays to give the look of the kind of faux salt glaze. And then you can give it a quick coat of some spray-on poly, and then I added my trees, and it was so quick and easy. You could add some blue lines if you want it to look like a traditional crock. You could also use a stencil to add some wording on there, but I liked them plain so I could use them for any season, and they turned out so good. Number 15 is a throwback to Christmas in July, but I also love that this is a great piece for into the winter, and it's this faux Birchwood candle. So it starts with an LED candle from Dollar Tree, and I took my little slice cutter, but you can use whatever razor blade that you have, and I went through and created some lines in the same look as faux birch. So I gave some squiggly lines. I did a couple to make it look like there was a knot within the tree, and don't worry if you can't see them easily right away. You're going to put some paint on that will make them stand out. So once your whole candle is done and you have all of your little grooves ready to go, then it's time to make those pop. So I grabbed some acrylic paint. This color is nutmeg brown, and I just took a little paintbrush and painted over all of those little indents that I made. You don't have to be super clean and precise with this because you're just going to go ahead and wipe it off, and the goal is to just get that paint to seep into those little creases that you made. Once that's all wiped off, then I took some Waverly chalk paint as well as some gray paint, mixed them together, and then I painted it over the top. Now this first coat, I did way too much paint. You're going to want to go for more of a dry brushing effect like you see here, and that will give you a better looking coverage. You still want that brown to kind of come through. That's what gives you the birch look. And don't worry if you painted too much, you can just go back through and put your brown back on and fix it. Then I finished off the look with some greenery, a cute little ornament, and some jute twine. You could absolutely make this with just the jute twine, make it look really cute for winter. It's also a really great Christmas piece. For number 14, I'm throwing it back to the summer when I showed you guys how to make some really fun little pedestals. So I got all of these pieces from either Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and they were all unfinished wood pieces. I stained them with some dark walnut stain, and then I just used my nail gun to assemble them to create some tiered trays and some different pedestals for decor and candles. And it's really easy to put together, and you can make these for a lot cheaper than you can find them in the store. I also used that same technique to put together this really cute kind of shorter tiered tray for my dining room table. Same process, unfinished wood pieces, stain them, and nail gun them together. Number 13 is from a video I did back in April around Earth Day, and this was right at really kind of the onslaught of the pandemic, and so everybody was using their disinfectant wipes, and so I wanted to show you a way that you could repurpose the container. So this particular one, I just removed the sticker from the outside so that I was left with a white container, and then I removed the lid. I went through and gave it a quick coat of some white chalk paint, just so then that way I had a blank white canvas to work with. Then I went to work with my painter's tape. I taped off some horizontal stripes evenly spaced up the container. And once those were all taped, I painted the stripes with a gray. Once that was dry, I carefully peeled that off, and I had a little bit of paint chips, so I would recommend spray painting the white if you do want a white base, or just don't worry about it. And then I repeated the same step with vertical stripes and then painted those gray. And basically what you're doing is creating the buffalo check print here. Once those vertical stripes were dry, I went back through with the painter's tape from the horizontal stripes and stuck it back on the container. Basically, that is the way of telling the container that you want the areas where the black squares should be is where they overlap. Some of the areas peeled back just a little bit, but I was able to easily go through and touch it up. I added some jute twine and some lamb's ear, and you definitely wouldn't know that this came from a disinfecting wipes container. Number 12 is a quick and easy fall DIY, and you're going to use the same buffalo check painting technique that we just did on the container. I used a burlap Dollar Tree banner that I got in a mystery box for our challenge from Country Charm by Tracy, and I started by giving it a really light coat of white, so that would be the base for my buffalo check. Then I went through, did 3 vertical stripes, painted them gray like before, let it dry, peeled it off, and then did 3 horizontal stripes, evenly spaced. I let that dry, and then instead of peeling it off, I figured out where those vertical stripes originally were. I put them back on and then painted my black squares. That way you are putting the squares on top of where the lines overlap. And then once that was done, I peeled off all my pieces and I had a buffalo check little pennant. I repeated the steps for all of the pieces in the package that I got, and then it was time to hang it. So I took some jute twine, put it on my mantle, evenly spaced out my little pennants, and then I took some Dollar Tree burlap leaves and placed them across the garland. You could use anything else for this garland. You could use it year round. It'd be cute for winter if you have things with snowflakes. It is also great for the springtime with floral things. There's a lot of different options that you could do here, and I like that I didn't have to hook the leaves on because then I can swap it out for seasons. Number 11 is another trash to treasure DIY. I grabbed a pickle jar, cleaned it off, and removed the label. And I turned it into this really fun faux hobnail piece. So all you have to do here is once your jar is cleaned, go through with a hot glue gun and make your little dots on your container. I've also seen people do the same technique by using little glue dots or little stickers from the Dollar Tree. You could do that as well. I just used the glue gun because I had that on hand. Once I went through and removed all of the little hair pieces, then I went through and painted it with 3 coats of Waverly chalk paint to give it that hobnail white. I have also heard if you put your glue sticks in the freezer, you guys tell me all the time that will get rid of the little hairs. I haven't tried that yet, so I will definitely have to try that the next time I make something like this. I added some jute twine to finish off the look, as well as some lamb's ear, and this was literally the cutest free DIY I've ever made. In that same video, I shared how you could create a similar look, but make it look more like Birchwood, except for I drew some wood bark looking lines on the outside of the jar, and then I went through and painted it just like I did the one before. And they both looked really good together. Number 10, we are halfway there. This was a quick and easy DIY I made for Finn's nursery. I grabbed some Dollar Tree LED little nightlights and I used my Cricut to customize them. I just cut out some cute little decals that matched his nursery woodland decor, and I applied them to the plain canvas there on the light. Super quick and easy. It's really nice to add a little bit of flair to different rooms, and you could also do these for different holidays, make it festive and fun for bedtime for your kids. Number 9 are some Patriotic DIYs. This one are these fun stars made from a non-traditional arrangement of some clothespins. I grabbed a big pack of clothespins from the Dollar Tree and I took out the metal piece. Then I glued all of them together as if they were pinched open, like so. And then I went through and hot glued all of the edges together to create these fun stars. I did a unfinished wood version. I also did a red and a blue version, and they are really great fillers for tiered trays and little vignettes. That whole video, there's 10 different projects there for 4th of July. So again, I will link it down below for you. Back to fall for number 8, these cute little half pumpkins. So I made these out of these Dollar Tree pumpkin signs that they have every year. I just took my miter box that I got from Amazon and chopped them in half to create these cute little signs. I made sure to sand off any of that glitter, and then I painted the entire sign front, back, and sides with the color that I wanted. I did a white one and an orange one. Once the white had dried, I just used a little bit of tan to create the grooves of the pumpkin, and I did the same for the orange pumpkin just to give it a little bit of texture. I distressed it, and then I used some of the Dollar Tree little transfer rub-on word letter things to put the different sayings on there, and those are a great alternative if you don't have a Cricut. I completed the look by cutting the one stem into 2, so I had 2 pieces, gluing it on, adding some jute twine and some little burlap leaves. These are another thing that are perfect for tiered trays, and you can put whatever you want on them, or they could just be plain pumpkins. Number 7 is a really fun technique that you could use for any season. This one just happened to be a Christmas DIY. So I took this Dollar Tree plastic wastebasket and I turned it into a faux metal bucket. So I started by giving it one coat of a paint and primer white spray paint that I just got from Walmart to kind of cover up the harsh blue color. Then I took some gray Waverly chalk paint and a little makeup sponge and dabbed the gray all the way around the bucket. The dabbing is going to give you that pounded metal or brush metal look that you're going for with the faux metal bucket. I also made sure to get the top edges as well as the inside of the bucket. Then I repeated the same step with a darker gray, which is dark granite, and as you can see here, you can definitely see the stippling a lot better, and I would recommend something with a circle because that round edge really gives it that kind of pounded metal look. The last step is to go through with some metallic paint and just kind of fill in some of the areas to give it a little bit of sheen. And this step is totally optional, but I gave it a dusting of some brown paint just to make the top and the bottom look a little more rusted. Then I cut this stencil out of cardstock on my Cricut, and the reason I did the cardstock is because I didn't want to stick anything to this paint and have it peel right up off of the plastic. So the cardstock worked really well. I made sure to use a stencil-based font. So basically what that means is that the middle of your things like R's and A's and O's are all attached. So then that way you don't have like anything looking funky. It's all cut so it hooks together. And then I just went through and stippled on this Farm Fresh Christmas tree decal, which is a free download if you head to the video that is linked down below. Then I finished off the look with some nautical rope to create some handles, added some greenery and some lights, and you honestly at first glance would have no idea that it is a faux metal bucket. Number 6 is from Easter time. It's this fun little planter box with these buffalo check little cutouts on there. So I used 4 of these St. Patrick's Day signs, but you can usually find a ton of signs like this any season at Dollar Tree that you can kind of pop apart. And then I also used some of these create your own ornaments in various pieces, and then some Dollar Tree foam and greenery and flowers. So the first thing I did was disassemble the signs, and all I was interested in was the outside frame. I didn't need really all but one of the actual sign pieces. So I went through, and with those you can usually give them just a little bit of a push and they'll come apart. And then I cut down some Dollar Tree wood rulers so that the inside could be stable. And I just used that with my miter box that I showed before. I went through, measured everything out, and then painted all of the outsides of my signs, as well as one bottom piece so that there was a bottom to my container. Once everything was painted white, I added that piece back to the bottom. I applied the ruler at an angle, and you can see it a little bit, but that's what gave it kind of that barnwood rustic look, and it also made it so it looked like the slats were essentially floating. Then to create the little pieces on the outside, I did 2 eggs and 2 bunnies. I started by painting them all a base coat of white. I used my buffalo painting technique to do 2 pink and 2 purple. So the first step is to take that white and blend it with one of the colors that you're going to use, because for this you need a white, a middle color, and then your dark color. So your middle color is essentially your white mixed with purple or white mixed with pink. And I went through and painted vertical stripes of that lighter muted color on each. Then I peeled off my painter's tape and then went through and painted my horizontal stripes that same muted color. Save those pieces you pulled off from the vertical stripes though, because you'll need them later. Once that was dry, I reapplied those pieces of tape to my vertical stripes, and then I went through with the full purple color, so not mixed with any white, and painted the open areas to give those squares where everything met the full color. Once everything was done, I took some hot glue and applied my pieces to the outside of my container. And then I cut apart my little Dollar Tree florals, stuck them into my foam, and that was it. I have a ton of different Easter projects in this same color story from last year, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. That includes these super fun take on farmhouse beads with some little Easter eggs that came in these packages. I could be here all day recapping DIYs I did in 2020, so you will have to check out the other video to kind of see the full process with this, but these were definitely one of my favorites that I did this year. Number 5 is another wood DIY. This is one of my favorite ones, and it was your guys' favorite too, thanks to the amount of views that it got. And this one is a really great gift idea as well. It's a great housewarming gift, and all you need is an edge-glued circle piece of wood from your hardware store, Home Depot, Menards, Lowe's, they all sell them, as well as some little hardware handles. So step 1 was to stain with Minwax Dark Walnut. That's my favorite. I made sure that that was dry. Then I brought it in and it was time to whitewash it. So I just took some white paint, mixed it with some water, and then I just gave that a quick dusting on top. This gave it kind of a grayish finish. This is totally optional, but I did it for this particular one. Just went through and kind of wiped it on so it would sink into the wood. Then once that dried, it was time to tape off my gray area. I just measured it and kind of eyeballed it, put my painter's tape down, and then used some Waverly gray paint to paint that area. If you head over to the original video, this is a free cut file over there for you if you have a Cricut and want to make this. I applied it with my paper transfer tape. Went through, painted the gray first so that the stencil would stick down, and then I painted the white. You could also use Mod Podge to make the stencil stick down. You just want to make sure that you use a stippling motion with your stencil. And then I peeled off my vinyl. After the stencil had been taken off, I just used some wipe-on poly to seal it, and then I marked and drilled some pilot holes to add my handles that I got. It's a super easy project. Like I said, it's a great gift idea. I also have a buffalo check serving tray on my channel if you want to check that out as well. If you don't have a Cricut and you just want to do a buffalo check one, I've got you covered. Number 4, shocker, is another buffalo check. I love painting things in buffalo check, and you guys say that you love seeing it as well, so we will keep them coming. This one was part of a larger Dollar Tree mystery box collab that happened back in March. And this was actually the last video I completed before I went to the hospital with Finn, so it has some good memories. I used this Explore sign that I got in that mystery box, painted it white, and then went through and did my buffalo check painting technique on it, which you'll see in a minute. I also used this Dollar Tree little wind chime, and I painted that whole thing white to kind of neutralize the very bright colors. I used some thicker painter's tape, but I followed the same method that I've done before with the horizontal stripes, paint them gray, vertical stripes, paint them gray, replace the tape, and then paint your black squares. So that's how I got that. Then I took some wood dowels from the Dollar Tree, stained them with my dark wood stain, and then just cut them so that I could trim out the little birdhouse. And then I strung some wood beads to give some texture and some interest to the little hanger. I glued my sign down, and then I added a little decal that said Home Sweet Home. So I do a ton of seasonal content here on my channel, and I think in 2021 I'm really going to try to do some more like everyday farmhouse, because I don't do a ton of that, and I think that would be a lot of fun. Number 3 is one of my most creative, I think, things that I did this year, and this was another mystery box collab. I love doing these things. We've got another one coming up soon, and these really get my kind of mental juices flowing. So I used some of the wood craft cubes to make this bead garland. So I just took some pliers and I gripped the little cube really hard and used my drill to drill a hole. So essentially just create a hole where you can string those beads on. I did that, and then I was inspired by a little Halloween beaded garland. You could do whatever colors that you want here, but I decided to do orange, black, and buffalo check. So to color these little blocks, I did a cup with a little bit of water and a little bit of acrylic paint in the color of my choice, and kind of diluted the paint so you kind of paint water. I threw my pieces in there, swooshed them around, and then I dug them out with a paper clip. This gave it a muted tone, but it was so much quicker than having to hand paint all of those little squares, let me tell you. So then I did black, orange, and white, and then I went through on the white pieces and painted some gray lines, and then everywhere the gray lines overlapped, I just gave it a little black dot to give it the appearance of faux buffalo check. This is a lot easier than the whole put the painter's tape on and things, and honestly they're so small that it's hard to tell, like if you even make a mistake, it's just the overall look. My last step was I took apart a little dollhouse table because that was a challenge item that Tracy had sent me for this video, and I painted it black, but Dollar Tree has a ton of little wood cutouts that you could use for this. Then I took some jute twine, strung everything up, created a quick little tassel for the end out of some more jute twine, and then I added a decal that says Hocus Pocus to the piece of table, and then it was ready to go. I think I might make another one of these with just the unfinished wood and some buffalo check for the spring, but I was just so inspired by those blocks, and I think it turned out great. Number 2, we are getting closer. So this is one of my most popular DIYs I've ever done on my channel, and it is farmhouse books. You've probably seen these everywhere, but I posted a video a couple years ago, and it has been one of my favorites to share, and then one of your guys' favorites to watch. So grab some Dollar Tree books, remove the cover, you just paint the spine white, and you also can paint the top of it, kind of dust it with a little bit of white so it kind of crinkles the pages and makes it look rustic. Then I added some buffalo check ribbon to hook my 3 books together. You could do whatever saying that you want. You could do, I've seen 2 books, I've seen 5 books. If you want to do your family's name, it's really up to you. These are totally customizable. And once that was all glued down, I just went ahead and added some jute twine over the top of that buffalo check ribbon. And then I took some stamps from Michael's, and this happened to be an Easter project, so I put He Is Risen. I've done Christmas ones. I have ones that say Alex, Whitney, Finn, and Sebastian. There are a ton of different options. You could put whatever you want on it. You also don't have to have stamps. You could use your Cricut for that. You could use the little rub-ons from Dollar Tree. There are a ton of different options, but this is such an affordable way to make those little book stacks you see everywhere. And finally, number 1, this has to be my favorite that I've made all year, and it is these faux birch logs from Dollar Tree Supplies. If you haven't seen that video, do you know what's underneath these faux logs? They are Dollar Tree pool noodles. So this process is pretty funny because through the whole process, it looks like it's never going to work, and then you get to the end and it just magically is amazing. So stick with me here. I'll show you how I did it. So I chopped down my noodles to length, and then I cut strips of Dollar Tree craft paper to the circumference of those noodles, so then that way I could cover them with these strips. I also made sure to trace the ends of my noodles, so I had circles to go on the end of each. Once everything was traced and cut out, I cut my pieces into strips for my coverage of the pool noodle. Once it was crinkled, I unraveled it, and then I took some Mod Podge and applied the end to the noodle as well as all of the pieces up the noodle. Now, I did a little bit of overlapping, and that's where you're going to get kind of that peely texture that Birchwood gives you. And I made sure to get each end like really stuck down. It can pop up just a little bit, but you don't want it to pop up to the extent that it's going to fall off. Once that whole piece was covered and dried, you'll see how it gets a little crinkly. I wadded up some pieces of toilet paper, and this is where people got lost with me. They were like, girl, it's not gonna work, but I swear it will. You've seen the after already. And I took some Mod Podge and stuck the pieces of toilet paper down. I'm just using one square of toilet paper, sometimes smaller, but just a little bit to give you that little raised kind of knot texture from the Birchwood. And then once those are dry, go through with some white chalk paint and cover up the craft paper. Now you can kind of cover up the toilet paper, but because it's white, it doesn't really matter, and you'll get to that here in the future. So then once those are all painted white, let them dry. So then you're going to create a little whitewash. So I put some gray acrylic paint with some water, and I covered the entire log with that. Also, you're going to take the paint mixture and drench those pieces of toilet paper. You want it to be like matted down and get some of that color, because that's what's going to make that look like a knot. Once you do that and it dries, repeat the same step but with a brown whitewash. That will give you that wood colored texture back. So after you do your gray wash and your brown wash, this is what it's going to look like. Those crinkly craft pieces really start to look like Birchwood. And then I added some more gray paint to my gray mixture and really went through and made sure that each piece of toilet paper that was on there was really nice and dark. Once everything dried, that's what it looked like. I bundled it up with some jute twine, and voila! These things are awesome. They are definitely my favorite. They are definitely my #1 DIY for 2020. Thanks so much for sticking with me on this long video. I've got a ton of content coming your way in the new year, so be sure to hit subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, did you like this long video? Let me know if you like these kind of mega compilation videos. I will do some more if you like them. Let me know down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!